All right, so everybody's in. I just hear your voices. I would like to see and to show all of our audience who our panelists are, and I welcome all of you on screen, please.
That's
Okay,
sorry,
I
Diego,
see
but
you are now.
okay.
What about Tony? All right,
It's me.
wonderful. Everybody's in. So thanks all for joining. I do apologize with our audience for this little delay. It's 10:37, so 7 minutes late. Hope you didn't quit this webinar because there's much better to come than this bit difficult start. So a warm welcome and a big thank you to all of you who have joined and who have resisted until now despite these technical problems. I welcome you all to this first out of 3 Houseful webinars on waste, water, and today's topic, which is energy. So before introducing you our outstanding panelists that you can already see on screen, I'd like to take a couple of more minutes to give the chance to those who might have not finished yet sipping their coffee to get connected and take advantage of this extra time to give you a couple more of technical details of this platform that we are using. You all have it before your eyes. As you might have seen, it's a bit complicated, probably not so fluid, but we will manage it. So first thing, don't. There's no point, unfortunately, on clicking on all possible buttons because your microphone audience will be automatically switched off. But it doesn't mean that we're not interested in your feedback. Right on the contrary, we invite you to share your thought, question, comments at any time just by raising your virtual hands. They should be here by clicking on a small hand tab on the top left corner of the dialog box on the right side of your screen, and then type your question in the chat box just below so that Manuel, the social media manager, which will be assisting us, and I thank him a lot for that during this webinar, will submit them to our panelists for them to answer them. So as you might know, we'll spend 1 hour, a bit less right now, together until 11:30. And after the presentation of our panelists, we still have about a 10-minute window for a debate. But if you wouldn't like just submit your question, just as I said, feel free to do it at any time because interaction is key and any of your comments will enrich and make this debate even more interesting. So I beg you especially not to be shy because, and for me as a journalist, it's a mantra, the only stupid question is the one that you don't dare to ask. So it's now 10:39, we're a bit late, so let's assume everybody's now finished sipping their coffee and everybody is warmed up, and let's get started with this webinar produced and organized by Houseful together with Icons Innovation Strategies, which is the Italian foundation in charge of its dissemination activities. This is the foundation I work for. I am their editorial manager. I'm a journalist. I basically produce articles, film videos, and moderate webinars as this one. You can find more information of me on LinkedIn, and especially what we're interested on today is the Houseful project. As most of you will already know, it's a EU-funded project which will come to an end in the coming weeks. This is why the timing is perfect to make a point with Arnau and Tony on its achievements. So the aim of this project, as you will all know, it's like fostering circularity in the housing construction. So its range of activities is very wide, too wide to be resumed right now during this webinar in just a few minutes, but I invite all of you who might be curious to know more about that just to visit their website, houseful.eu, and to register to our upcoming webinars in the next week on March 9 and March 16. I will give you further details on that at the end of this webinar. But now straight to the topic of today's debate, which is energy. And this is why which is one of the so-called main pillars of the Houseful project, and this is why I warmly finally welcome our outstanding panelists, both representing one of its technical partner, which is Aiguasol, an energy and environmental engineering and consulting company based in Barcelona. First of all, welcome Arnau Gonzalez, and project director at Aiguasol. Am I right, Arnau?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so
good morning,
before
everyone.
getting, thanks for being with us, and thanks for being patient despite these small technical problems. Before getting straight to the topic of this webinar, I'd like to set the frame to let our audience better understand what we'll be speaking about, and remind everybody that the title of this meeting is circularity in construction, diving into sustainable building solution and business models. So just to give an idea to our audience, why this title are now?
Well, the Houseful project is centered on the development of a set of different solutions based on the circular economy, and I was always leading the development of the solutions focused on energy efficiency, energy renovation, energy self-production, and obviously also the business models associated to successful exploitation of these energy solutions. So that's what we wanted to summarize here, that we are developing within this project energy solutions based on circular economy principles, which is a trendy topic and very aligned with sustainable and energy efficiency directives in the European Union.
So it's a very rich menu. We'll see different points during this meeting. Let's now introduce our other panelists. You should see him on screen. Tony Arena. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Tony is also project director at Aiguasol. Before getting to the heart of your presentation, correcting if I'm wrong, might sound like a question for dummies, but as a journalist, my duty is to make difficult things simple to understand. I guess I understood one of your main mission as Aiguasol within the Houseful project was to improve energy efficiency through both active and passive solutions. So it might seem obvious for you as an insider, it might not be for part of our audience, but without spoiling too much, because we'll get later into details, can you just give us a quick overview of what these passive and active solution actually consist of, and in what kind of demo sites they've been tested and implemented?
Yeah, not only that, because we also have developed a methodology to assess the circularity of that solution, of these solutions. So that is also a main point of the Houseful project, and as Arnau said, a very important thing in nowadays. So what about passive strategies? Passive strategies are the ones that are not energy consuming in a building. A passive strategy is to protect better from the sun, is to protect better from the outside air temperature, is protect better from the environment, or protecting from the environment, or using the environment to reduce the energy demand of the building. So netics, a better walls, better glazings, better protections. So the idea is to reduce at the minimum the energy consumption without using energy, like a boiler or like air conditioning and so on. So the final idea is to live in a comfortable house without any energy consumption. So these are passive strategies. Active strategies are the ones that are energy that has energy consumption. So active strategies could be energy solutions like air conditioning or geothermal heat pump or so on. So are more like thermal machines that uses energy in a more efficient way than the actual thermal machines. We can use a geothermal heat pump that has a coefficient of performance much better than a usual air conditioning, for example, or a boiler or whatever, and this would be these active strategies.
Okay, so this is the difference between active and passive strategies, but what about how the demo sites have been chosen? What are their characteristics? Why write those ones?
Because these demo sites, most of these demo sites were all buildings that you have to have in mind that buildings that are built on 1975 are still in use with a thermal regulation that nowadays is obsolete. So we are using old buildings and with the idea to reduce their consumptions, to put them in an actual shape, and trying to improve this 3% of refurbishment that is mandatory by the energy European directive if we want to achieve the 2030 goals. And we put demo sites in Spain, for example, are public and social housing that has problems of a high energy consumption, and the idea is to reduce this energy consumption, not just for the environment and also for the people living in their apartments.
So, okay, thanks, Tony. I thank you a lot for this introduction because it made things clear. It set the frame of our debate, and it's a perfect introduction to your presentation, I guess, because if I understood well, correct me if I'm wrong, you will speak us about so-called energetic rehabilitation of envelopes. Am I right, Tony?
Yeah, more or less. We have three. We will go through the energy requirement that we have in Europe, actually, and then we will go through three projects: Houseful, Forineu, and Black and Harvest that has developed. Mainly facades or envelopes for those buildings. But in the Houseful, there are other energy strategies or other business model strategies that also we are working on.
So, okay, I think I see already your presentation on screen. We can get through it, and I give you the floor.
Okay, I am sharing the presentation right now.
Yes, you are.
All right, so let's start. This is under the Houseful webinar, but we, as I said, we will show three different projects more or less related. So first of all, we have to introduce the actual framework, the European framework. We are in the Green New Deal. The aim of this Green Deal is to increase the EU climate ambition for 2030 and 2050, supply clean, affordable, and secure energy, mobilizing industry for a clear and circular economy. Construction industry nowadays is based on a linear chain value. So we must change it to become circular, to get it into a circular economy new framework. So we need to the building renovation in energy and also in an resource efficient way, a zero pollution ambition for toxic-free environment, preserving and restoring ecosystem, and so on. So we have this new Green Deal framework. The idea of this action plan is to reduce the energy consumption in Europe. The energy consumption in Europe of the buildings are about the 40%. So we need to attack these buildings, to refurbish these old buildings in order to be more healthy and well-being, more to be part of the energy system infrastructure. This is something that nowadays is not happening. Buildings are mainly consumers, so doesn't interact with the with the energy system infrastructure. The idea is to put them into this structure in a way that that not only be consumers but also producers of energy. Okay, we need to be more efficient in this energy consumption. Now also, we need to be more circular in material and use, not just about the operational phase of the building, but also trying to make life of the buildings longer. To refurbishment means that you extend the life of the building, so you are not consuming energy or materials, new materials, and you are not consuming or emitting CO2, but you are extending this life period. So this is also a powerful way to be circular and to be sustainable. Okay, and we need more resilient buildings to face the climate risk, the climate change. So this is not going to happen only by the stakeholders involved in the industry, but you need to enlarge this group of stakeholders and put into this group the financial institutions, the European directive, also the national governments that are in charge of trespassing this European directive to the local authority. So it's important to everybody to be involved in this process. So the main problems of the sector, as you already know, is that we are consuming 40% of the total energy consumption, and we are producing the 36% of the CO2 emissions. So this is an important fact, that the 50% of the building built before 1975 will still be in use in 2050. Yes. So it means that we will have to live in buildings that are not that are below the actual thermal requirements or the actual comfort requirements. So it's important to engage a quick process of refurbishment in order to take this building to the actual regulations.
And just correct me, but sorry for stepping in, Tony, but I think this is a further challenge, because I mean, new building being circular and the new building stock is much easier than like refurbishing and making circular all buildings which have to be refurbished, right?
Exactly. The easy way is to design a new building. The hardest way or the hardest work we have here is to refurbish the old buildings, and because all these buildings were designed under old regulation, that means spaces, volumes, techniques, and so on, and the constraints of a urban area. So the main, the hard work here is to develop new techniques, new business models, new energy systems to refurbish these buildings before 1975. Not just 1975, but 2010. That is the time of the new directive. So it's important to.
Let me just play the devil's advocate, all right, and be a bit provocative. But is it worth refurbishing so old buildings?
Is it? Sorry?
Is it worth, or would it be easier just to build them again from scratch with new concepts in a more circular way?
But the idea is this is not a feasible action to be made in many cities, in many towns. If we tear it down and rebuild again, it could be possible in some local places, but not as a global strategy. And by doing that, what you're doing is, and this is why the renovation is important, because the most circular is to renovate, is to use the materials you already have been using during the last 25 years or 40 years, and adapting it to a new situation. If you are tearing it down or put it down, or I don't know how to say to
yes, perfect.
To take the building down, you are wasting all this material. So what is important to do is to extend the life of the actual building and change it to adapt to the new thermal regulation or to the new situations of climate change. So next one, okay, to achieve the minimum 55 emission reduction target for 2030, the European Union must reduce building greenhouse gas emissions by 60%, so the energy consumption by 40%, and the energy consumption of heating and cooling by 18%. So, and most important of that is to keep or to raise an average rate of deep renovation about 3%. This is I know many countries like Spain is under this rate, so we have to keep up. We have to speed up the renovation rate if we want to achieve.
Just for it to be clear to our audience, what does deep renovation actually means? What do we understand for that?
Deep renovation means that we take an old building and we put this building, we change the envelope, we change anything, and we convert we transform this old building in one building that satisfies the actual construction regulations. So if we have or we renovate a building from 1975 and put it in a situation 2023, so satisfies every requirement of this understood as energy requirements or sustainable requirements. This is a deep renovation.
Okay.
All right, so the three projects we have: the Houseful, the 40 New, and the Plug and Harvest. Houseful, the main goal of the Houseful was to develop and demonstrate an integrated systemic service, Houseful service, composed of 11 circular solutions. There are solutions for water, for energy, for business model. It started on this is an horizon 2020 and started in May 2018 and will finish in 2 months in 2023. The main objectives of Houseful are to develop a methodology to quantify the degree of circularity of buildings at different stages along their whole life cycle. This is what I mentioned it before. There are not many methodologies that tries to assess the circularity, and one challenge of doing that is that vectors, circularity vectors like water, energy, social economy, or materials are very different between one another. So it's difficult to develop this methodology, what have been done under the umbrella of the Houseful. To demonstrate and validate this methodology in the different pilot cases, to assess the potential environmental and social economic impacts, to ensure the marketability of the Houseful solutions, deliver policy recommendation at every level, and raise awareness and acceptance of Houseful services. So the main vectors of these solutions are solutions that are holistic, that attack or tries to be holistic, attack every vector and tries to attack every parameter of our buildings. There's specific solutions for materials, specific solutions also for water, specific solutions for waste, and for energy. So these solutions are named from 1 to 11. The energy related ones that we are talking about here is the S10, that is the improvement of the energy efficiency by active and passive solutions. As I said before, passive solutions include facades, insulation, energy efficient windows, and the use of modular and more sustainable materials. And the active solutions range from solar thermal panels to shade photovoltaic systems, but also active solutions could be that we haven't implemented them in the Houseful, but active solutions could be a geothermal heat pump or something like this. When we renovate a building, our priority, or when we design a building, our priority should be the passive solutions before applying active solutions. So the priority will be given to passive solutions applied to the building envelope, and the main goal of this renovation is to reduce at the maximum the energy demand that we need for heating and cooling. And if we achieve a low energy demand, we must produce this energy to cover the energy demand with renewable energies. These are the main strategies for this, for a good renovation. The other solution is to guarantee the energy savings and production in buildings. So many business models has been developed, has been studied in order to try to change the actual situation. We have a situation with linear change value. So we are examining paper performance models, paper use models. You are used to these models, but more related with apps like Netflix, a car, or something like this. But you are not used to these models in the building sector. The 4IN-EU, the main goal was to promote in Europe the deep energy renovation of the housing stock and the decarbonization energy. You may see that these projects are very aligned in the final objective. It could be practically the same. So the European Commission is investing in the renovation actions. So and always facing the same direction, circular economy solutions, rebuild or renovate the actual stock and go through a low carbon industry. So the challenge in this case was to provide new solutions and tools in the field of renovation, innovation that allow the objective to be assumed at a competitive cost, and that was replicability. That was replicable. The other strong claim from the European Commission is that these solutions could have an escalable factor that could be easily in the market, and it's important the term on a large scale, replicable on a large scale, because we are facing this 3% ratio that we need to achieve.
So, and I see from your slide that this project came to an end in 2021. So we already have some achievements. We can retrieve some lessons from this project, right?
Yeah, the idea, I don't know. Okay, this is what it was built in Lleida, in a city of Lérida in Spanish. It was a facade that was industrial, made all from wood, and it was pre-made, industrialized. So it was built in a factory, and then built on like a plug and play solution, like more or less like the same you are going to see in the last project, the plug and harvest. But this is a renovation, the renovation of the facade, and this facade made in wood to keep the carbon emissions lower, and this facade also included insulation, mechanical ventilation. So the idea was to, as I said before, to transform an old building into a new building that is well insulated, that is well ventilated, and that that has renewable energy production on site.
So this is a typical lesson we can retrieve from these kind of projects, right? You basically just built an envelope and helping an old building like to meet today's standards, right?
Yeah, the idea, this is the idea, and the idea is to protect better our buildings and to use the easy ways to renovate the facade, the roof, to achieve energy production, a better insulation, or a better thermal behavior, and also a better ventilation. Okay, because all the old regulations were not at the same level than the ones in terms of ventilation, in terms of heating demand, in terms of cooling demand, and so on. So this is the general idea of these three projects. Okay, so we have many pilots, some of them real pilot and others virtual pilots. But the idea was the same, to fabricate this prefabricated multifunctional facade and to reduce the inconvenience for the inhabitants of these dwellings and just plug and play, as I said, to easy the because when you mention the idea of taking this building apart of using the demolition of these buildings, this is not feasible. People who live in houses, what they want is an easy solution without much inconvenience. So this easy envelope solution are very appreciated. So the plug and harvest project, this is only, well, this has two main goals. The first one was also another facade, another. I will go directly to this adaptable and building envelope. Okay, this is adaptable and building envelope is the same or more or less the same like you have here an image, more or less like the 40 Neo. In this case, it's not made from wood but from aluminium, and this is ready to just plug and play, attaching this new facade to the existing facade. And the idea of this facade was also to contain the photovoltaic modules to produce energy, and also to be connected with sensors and appliances that could work with with an IMCS, that's an intelligent management control system. Okay, the idea is that the facade, using the parameters of the weather and using some algorithm that rules the energy, the boiler, the air conditioning, the mechanical unit ventilation. So the people who is living in these houses, just installing the facade, could also have not just a better insulation and an energy renewable production, but also a better management of the systems inside the house. So this was the main product to develop. We are working with two manufacturers in order also to be to this concept of scalability, okay, to large renovation, and well, we're very proud of what it comes out from the project. Also, in this project, the idea was to use the circular principles in the design of the solution. As you can see here, every component of the solution is easily disattached, so we can we build that, but we can recover the parts of this facade easily, and then reuse it or whatever, or repair it and then put it again. So this follows the principles of circularity in terms of design.
And it's fully modulable.
Exactly. Exactly. So so that's it. We have built it in, as I said, in the 40neo, the pilot of this, or the most beautiful pilot, it was in Lerida. We have also demonstrated the appliance of this facade, of this plug and play facade in Sant Quirze del Vallès, a city near Barcelona, that was public housing. Public housing has the problem of the thermal poverty, of the energy poverty, sorry, when consumptions are not detected because people is too poor to pay for energy. So the idea is to insulate, to improve the insulation of these envelopes in order to require less energy demand and help people also in an economic way.
Sorry, Tony, you're now illustrating us especially examples from Spain, but you just said you had pilots in several EU countries. That might have been interesting probably also to understand what the differences are, because I guess that like the approach to the housing sector and like the possibility like to apply this kind of circular solution is probably not exactly the same in every country. The state of the art might be different,
No,
right?
exactly. The idea of this modular solution, we have applied this solution in Cardiff, in Agen, in Grevena, and in and here in Barcelona. So the idea of this solution is not just to be able to build it in several countries of Europe, but also that the designs could be manufactured or could be used by many manufacturers. This was designed using this circular design requirements, and the idea was to anyone or everyone or anyone that could have interest in this solution could produce it, a manufacturer like many in the market, and then adapt it to the local or the regional climate conditions.
So they can be basically tailored to different needs, right?
Exactly. And these needs mainly are the width of the insulation. The insulation requirements are different among Europe, and could be also the need of these modules can be different. This is why this is modular. We can achieve a higher ratio of glazing opaque in order to capture more light, or we can use different ratios also of PV panels on this solution. So in Cardiff, for example, we will need more width for the insulation, and probably less, or depending on the facade, because if we install it on the north, or we install it on a north facade, or if we install it in a south facade, we can use the PV panels or not. So it's adapted to every situation. The idea of simplify this shape is also to adapt to any kind of building. This is not an easy question, because several buildings that have not regular shapes. So these solutions are much more easy.
It's challenging.
Exactly. Yeah. This, if we have a regular 90-degree shape, for example, this is much more easy to plug. But in the old town, for example, it's more difficult, we have to say.
Sure.
Because buildings are more irregular.
So I don't want to put you under pressure, but I see that clock is ticking and it's already 11:15. So let's keep going at a steady pace.
Okay, I think I had more or less I have finished. So
okay, we came to an end. That was very interesting what you said. I take the chance like to remind our audience not only that they can like address their question to us right now through the dialog box and the chat box I just mentioned you before. But as you see right now on Tony's presentation, you also have here Tony and our now email addresses. So if you want to ask him privately some question, both of them will be happy to answer them. And I also thank Tony for his very detailed and comprehensive presentation, which was a perfect introduction to what Arnau will now speak is about, because like all the very interesting solution Tony just presented, and luckily, I guess, need money, need to be financed. And when it comes to money, this is where business models, and especially sustainable business models, comes into play. Right, Arnau?
Yeah, right. I wasn't prepared. I was on mute. So thank you, Diego. Yeah, just you made a perfect link. That's why we wanted to Tony to speak first, because that's the technical solutions. Now it comes how they can be implemented from a business
How to pay
perspective.
for them, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Exactly.
to pay, to afford them, and to make them sustainable also from an economic point of view, not only the environmental and circular point of view, which is critically important as well. I
So,
should be able to share my
exactly.
screen, I
I asked
guess.
Manuel to let Arnau share his presentation, because we'll still see Tony's screen right now. We should switch to Arnau's presentation. Okay, so one step is done,
Yeah.
and I guess we'll soon see yours.
Okay.
Okay, we see beautiful mountains. It's a good start. Let's take a deep breath, enjoy the
Yeah.
landscape, and we'll soon. It's quite circular anyway.
Yeah. Just confirming that, can you see my full
We
screen
can see your
presentation?
screen. That's good. That's a good start.
Not the presentation? Okay.
Not the presentation. We can see your desktop, I guess. No, we could see
Okay.
a desktop.
Okay. So my main monitor.
All right.
Okay.
I think
Now it should be.
so. Go ahead.
Now you can see my full slide, full screen
Perfect.
slide presentation. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Anyway, but the mountains were good as well. Well, thank you, Diego and Tony, for the nice introduction of my presentation. As Diego said, I'm going to reflect a little bit on circular business models for performance guarantee. And in our project, we wanted to address both things. That's why we try to focus or develop two kind of different services. One that was perfectly explained by my colleague Tony, is more related to make the building more sustainable. So the physical solutions, the passive and active solutions for making the building more energy efficient. But as Diego said, we identified at the very beginning, well, when we were envisioning and conceptualizing the project, that the business models for this performance guarantee were critical as well. And we also worked in this direction. So I'm gonna make a short introduction on what we understand or different ideas around circular economy based business models and performance economy, and then I'm gonna deepen my explanation on servitization for energy retrofitting and like pay-per service and pay-per performance business models, and I'm gonna end with the different financing strategies at EU level for this kind of interventions, and one success story that also proves that
Give us some
that can
hope.
be done.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible to do that. So, what is a circular economy business model? Well, this concept arises from the performance economy concept, which is something that was started like a decade ago, and basically what understands this performance economy is that that we can, or we must be able to switch from a regular or business as usual approach in which supplier sells a product, and switch that to a different approach in which the supplier doesn't necessarily sell the product, but sells or commercializes or exploits the service made by this product. So this performance economy basically says, hey, instead of just making a commercial arrangement in which the supplier is giving or selling the product by a certain amount, why don't we offer the end user or the customer the service associated to this product, so the supplier that actually manufacture it or install it in terms of building construction and refurbishment can own or retain the ownership of this product and better maintain it, better upgrade it, and better optimize to ensure that this product is delivering the maximum performance during all the life cycle, no, or the lifetime.
Sorry for stepping in now, but I think
That's
we're
fine.
touching now a critical point, and to make it clear, correct me if I'm wrong. So the switch from providing a product to providing a service benefits basically the environment because it manages to meet both the needs of, on one hand, of the service providers, on the other hand, of the environment. It means that if in the contract you say that the providers not only has to provide the product itself, but all which is related to its installation, maintenance, and whatsoever, it means that you find a driver to leverage and to push the service provider himself to lower basically energy consumption, material consumption. So this is quite a, let's say, kind of a Trojan horse to drive the economy players themselves not to consume more and produce more, but to lower this consumption, and then gets closer to the targets that we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, right?
Yeah, but I would say that more than a Trojan horse, I would say that the idea is to set out like win-win strategies for both sides, because in the end, the supplier the service provider, no, the supplier that switches to a service provider scheme will also get incomes and revenues for this service provision, and it's kind of setting up this win-win scheme in which the end user doesn't have to be aware of or worry about the performance of that service, because people that knows better about performance of the products are taking care of that, but he's instead of paying for the product, is paying for that service. So both sides are getting like benefits and gains from this kind of arrangement, or that should be the final goal of that.
All right, let's go ahead.
Let's go ahead. No, so how can we do that? Well, the circular economy in the building construction sector has been reflected on in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. It has gained importance, and in terms of building construction, which is a very material and energy consuming activity, the circular economy establishes that there are two kind of different cycles that have to be managed and pay attention to. One would be the biological cycles, in which the materials used are biodegradable and removable and disposable. So in this case, the main goal should be to ensure that this is happening, that the biological material is returning to the environment in a sustainable way. But as I said, in building construction, material use is very intensive, and in most cases we find that it's not in biological materials or biodegradable materials, but non-biodegradable resources. So we are looking at technical cycles. So in building construction, that will be the main case, because our the materials for building construction include metallic materials, ceramic materials, lots of materials that cannot be easily biodegradable or removed, and also the building is sought or designed to last, no? To last a 100 years if possible, no, or more. So in this case, we are not foreseeing this kind of biological cycle. So we are focusing on technical cycles in which servitization is sought just to ensure the optimization in the material use, the energy use, and also the water use, which are the main natural resources that we are using and consuming for building, construction, and retrofitting.
Just to make it clear for dummies, servitization, what do you mean for that?
Servitization, I'm meaning what I was saying a couple of minutes ago, that switching from a regular product sale to a service provision, no? So instead of selling the product or selling the building or selling some certain parts of the building, we are switching to the providing the service that these different parts of the building
Just to make it clear for the rest of your presentation, because we'll speak a lot about that. We just have few minutes left, but let's go ahead.
Yeah, I will try to speed up. So, as I said, how we can do that? So there are different schemes for the building construction sector. The main or the most important one would be the first one, the pay-per service or the pay-per-performance business model. In this case, we are switching, as I said, from regular product sale to service provision, and from a supplier perspective or the service provider perspective, we are offering revenues tied to the use of that service, to getting the benefits of that service from an end user perspective. So in this case, we could set up kind of regular or periodic fees, no, associated to the service, or even contract arrangements based on the performance. So for instance, to make it clearer or easy to understand, if we are doing that for a PV system, which is a easy system in which we can offer the service, a pay-per-performance business model would, instead of be based on the sale of the PV system and installation, be based on the energy production of that PV system. So the service provider basically owns the PV system, manages it, maintains it, and basically sells somehow the energy, or is getting revenues from certain threshold of energy that can be used by the end user or the building occupant, no? Other kind of business models could be renting or sharing. This has been quite used for other sectors, but not in buildings. But it's just starting to be also studied and piloted in some cases. Leasing, which is an alternative or a sub scheme from renting schemes, basically incorporates purchase options at some point, which for building construction can be also, for building refurbishment can be also interesting, because at some point the end user might want to own, no, the PV system that I was saying, or even pooling, which means shared ownership, which is also very interesting for energy retrofitting solutions, because now we are getting into collective energy self-consumption schemes, collectively owned PV systems, for example, like energy communities, and these kind of business models are getting more and more importance, because in the end they are optimizing the use of the available surfaces for PV systems by collectively owning the system and collectively using the energy produced by this kind of system. So this is something that is already happening and is getting more and more importance at the whole EU level, I would say.
Good. Just a second to apologize with our audience. It's already 11:30. We were supposed to end this webinar right now, but I think it would be a pity because we're just getting to the heart of the topic of Arnaud's presentation. So if technically possible, and I ask this question to our ICONS colleagues, I would keep going on a couple of more minutes to give Arnaud the chance to go through its presentation, because it's really very interesting, and we're now getting to the most concrete parts of these kind of solutions. So how to make them real. So if there's no problem, I invite you all to keep being connected, and I give the floor back to Arnaud to go on with this presentation for about 5 more minutes if possible.
Yeah, thank you, Diego. We'll try to stick to these 5 minutes to not bore our audience.
No, you're not at all. You're not at all. The problem is the other one, that we don't have enough time, but go ahead without like any problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So as I said, the circular economy business models for building construction basically can be make it more concrete in different sub strategies, let's say, that can be used alone or in combination. So one important thing from a circular economy perspective is to make use of circular materials, circular products, circular building parts. So this use of construction products and materials certified as circular, like for example, cradle to cradle, but not only cradle to cradle, but also, for example, FSC for wood material or timber products, and other kind of certifications, is getting more and more important. It's something that the industry is already doing right now, because it qualifies the building for being more sustainable and more circular. And the main or the most prevalent building certification schemes like LEED or BREEAM are already incorporating this kind of metrics related to material inputs and embodied carbon, let's say, minimization towards decarbonizing the building stock. So that's something that is already happening, and it's getting importance because the EU has set, let's say, ambitious targets for the decarbonization of the building stock, and circular inputs are critical, no, in building construction and retrofitting. There are also other strategies like servitization that I already explained. Also, the servitization and the product ownership retention by the suppliers is also aimed at extending service life of all products, which is also critical to avoid or reduce the number of replacements and refurbishments needed. It's something also very important. And there are also, as I said, collective or shared ownership schemes like energy communities. And last but not least, material recovery when a building is decommissioned or demolished, no? Especially for those that are more valuable, like rare materials or metals or something like that. So it's something that is already happening, and they are getting more and more importance to decarbonize and make more circular the building stock. So that's a kind of a summary. I would leave that for the audience to take a look when we can share the slides. And I will keep forward to the most important part, that is that which are the stakeholders and how we can finance them, no? So the main stakeholders that are involved on these different kind of business models aligned with circular economy, as you can see here, are different in different stages. So, for example, if we are focusing on circular inputs, we have to make them available to architects and consultants, which are building designers, also to product suppliers that have to change their manufacturing processes or their raw material supply and so on. But if we focus on sharing platforms and energy communities, that's more involved with clients or with end users, no, rather than the product supplier. So different, the building construction supply chain or value chain is complex and big, and there are different players involved in these different business models. And we have to keep aware of that when designing a successful scheme, no? Because the most important part is to have the required stakeholders for making it successful.
Sure. It brings me just quickly to something said by Tony during this presentation, that among the task of like the Houseful project was also to deliver policy recommendations. So all these frame that you're now sketching brings me, I don't know, let's be concrete. For this solution to be possible, you also find out how the way should be paved. So what should politics do to make things easier, basically?
Well, in fact, I'm going to explain that Yeah, I will explain later. I'm gonna go here because that's something that politics already made to make it possible, which is basically two different actions. One was setting up the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, and the Circular Economy Action Plan, in which they set up some measures to address the circular economy implementation in different sectors of the economy, and obviously one of them uh, is the building construction economy and sector, economic sector, and with the support of the private investment as well. There are a number of private market funds focused on circular economy, and this is growing. But the most important action from the politics perspective has been to set up this EU taxonomy. This is something that it's very important because at some point is classifying economic activities that are contributing to climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation, and also the sustainable use of material, water, and energy resources, reduction of pollution, and transitions towards circular economy. So this EU taxonomy, basically what it does is to classificate or sort the economic activities according to their compliance of these previous requirements. So if you are doing an activity like, for example, renovation of an existing building, which is the focus of our project, then you can see if this building construction or retrofitting is contributing to climate change mitigation, and they are setting up a set of criteria that you must meet or comply with in order to be able or compliant with this EU taxonomy. And what are the benefits of this EU taxonomy? So this is something that is starting this year to happen, and it will take a few months to be fully implemented, I guess. But the idea behind all this EU taxonomy is that private investment and also public investment is going to be aligned or will prioritize all these economic activities that are compliant with the EU taxonomy. So making a bill, all in all, or just to make it short and understandable for everybody, if you are doing a building or renovation activity that is compliant with this EU taxonomy, in the end, the political view of this EU taxonomy is that you should be able to access to cheaper funding or to access to more funding options or alternatives for your project. So that's something that the main goal of this EU taxonomy, and it's something very important that can amplify the renovation of buildings always under this circular economy perspective.
So this is the goal we all want to get to. So that's really the main aim also of this project, and what we'd like to foster also with our series of webinars. So I give you still 2 minutes before having to quit.
Well, I will just explain an example of servitization that has already been implemented. This is a project that is not included in Houseful, but it's very interesting from this business perspective. In the Netherlands, there has been a piloting project in which a whole facade has been implemented as a retrofitting solution under a service-based scheme. So in this case, what are the benefits of doing this? This can also be applied, as I said, like a PV system or let's say building heating and ventilation and air conditioning systems and so on. But with a facade, it's like more challenging, no? So, but what are the benefits of that? Basically, for the end user, they don't have to make an investment, which is quite an important benefit for them. No, that you are reducing the upfront investment needs, and also you are since the supplier or the service provider retains the ownership, you are guaranteeing that the product will be managed and maintained and optimized by the manufacturer itself. So it should be made better than for the end users that are not experts on building assets. And also there is an increase on the residual value of the product because it can be very well or more or better managed and better maintained, so increasing the property value as well. The main problem of that is identified in this piloting project, and this is something that could be also addressed from a political view, is that the legal structure for that is complex because the let's say real estate market is still very attached to ownership and property issues and legal issues regarding with this, and so we have to explore, no, as or the EU has to explore still how to make it more easy to implement from a legal point of view, because in the end you basically have to set out clear rules for responsibilities and guarantees associated to the ownership of a building part or a building element by the product supplier or service provider, and the ownership of the, let's say, home, no, by the end user. So that's the main thing
Well,
here.
despite these technical difficulties, I think it was a very inspiring example. So I thank you a lot for ending your presentation with that. I just invite you to switch to the following slide, because I'm really sorry to cut this very interesting debate, but our available time has come to an end already, like about 12 minutes ago. But I am sure, and I invite all of you who might be curious to know more, and especially what we hadn't have the time to discuss, to get in touch directly with Arnau and Tony. You find here their email address. So I guess they will be both glad to answer your question and to give you further information. And I also would like to remind all of you and those who might not have followed this webinar that it will be soon available on both Houseful website and YouTube webpage. So you cannot retrieve it on in a replay, but until that day, to have further information, I also invite you all to follow both LinkedIn page by Houseful and Icons Innovation Strategies to have and receive regular updates, especially on our upcoming webinars, the one I told you about at the beginning of this meeting on March 9 and March 16, respectively, on the topic of water and waste, which are two more pillars of the Houseful project. So as you might have understood, this is not a farewell, it's just a bye-bye, because we'll be here once again online 1 week from now on March 9 with a new webinar and new outstanding panelists, plus one special guest, Milo Falconaro by Acqua Pubblica Europea. So I'm really sorry, but time is really over. So I have, first of all, to thank our panelists. Thanks, Tony, that I see back here on screen. Thanks for your contribution, Tony. And thanks also to Arnau.
Yeah, thank you.
Presentation has been really inspiring. Hope we'll have the chance to discuss again in the future. And then I also thank a lot our audience. And to them, I just tell you, save the date, March 9, 5 p.m. once again here online to discuss about the water pillar of the Houseful project. And so stay tuned. Bye-bye to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.